Okay, so originally I had put this presentation together for a local brokerage that did not work out or move forward, so I figured rather than let it go to waste, I would consolidate it and share it with a little bit of a broader audience. So this is my observations of what I've seen are best practices by realtors when working with appraisers. And who am I? I'm a state certified real estate appraiser. I'm out of Lower Bucks County in the Bensalem area. Been in the real estate industry since 2008 and have practiced in valuation since 2012. And I'm going to try to kind of speed through it as best I can. Why do I feel like I'm qualified to share this? I work with hundreds of agents every year across all brokerages, markets, different kinds of property types. So there's common themes across those areas. And I think that my perspective as an objective third party in a lot of these transactions just kind of gives me a window into the different things realtors are doing that, kind of help transactions move more smoothly and sometimes what holds them up a bit. I also work with a lot of homeowners directly. So when the realtors are not involved in the transaction, the value that they provide kind of becomes very evident. And there's also a lot of situations that I'm involved with that have nothing to do with purchases or refinances, but still a realtor may also be indirectly involved. So if it's like a divorce or if there's an estate planning situation, a lot of times homeowners or parties involved will reach out to realtors to get comps or just ask their opinion on things. So just wanted to kind of consolidate my observations and share them, and hopefully they'll be valuable for everybody that sees this. So, number one is provide a floor plan. This is something I see a lot of agents are not doing. I think it's a better practice to do it. It's a lot of apps out there are free to do this. Cubicasa is one of them. I use that. It's very straightforward. You can walk through the house with a video. I know there's some hesitation from agents to include floor plans in their marketing materials, but my understanding is, and I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice, there was a court decision back in January that was pretty much affirming that real estate professionals could use floor plans in their presentations. My recommendation would be check with your brokerage, see what their policy is. If they permit you to do that, include them. If they prefer that you hire an independent party to come and provide the floor plan, do that. Hire someone like me or an appraiser or have a relationship with. Selfishly, it's business for me, but it's also great for prospective buyers to be able to visualize the layout of the house. And I think it's just going to become more of an expectation because the tools are available. So the other thing is, especially from the appraisal side, we're looking at comparable sales a lot of the time, and if those comps have floor plans available, it's really helpful because we don't walk through the comparable sales. So if the floor plan, along with the MLS photos and description, that gets us a lot closer to understanding every property out there, especially the ones we don't go in, which is really helpful for reflecting the accurate value of your listing. So everybody kind of wins on that one. Already touched on why you would want to do this. Number two, put together an improvements list. I see a lot of time agents don't do this, have no description of on the MLS whatsoever of what the property is or has had done to it. Yes, we're appraisers. We walk through, we see as much as we possibly can, but we're human. We don't know it as well as the homeowner does. So if this is something you and the homeowner can put together, it's really helpful. Even if you're just doing something as basic as like a bullet point list, water heater 2021 was replaced, furnace 2019 replaced. All those things are super helpful. The best agents the agents I like to work with most and I've observed tend to just have an air of professionalism about them that I think should be modeled. They'll have this list, they'll have the estimated years it was completed, even if it's a range is helpful. They might have estimated cost if their client provides that. It's also helpful to know who did it. Was it a professional contractor? Was it a family member? Did the seller do it themselves? And they're sort of handy. These are things I can tell walking through also, but just having a list of it is helpful. You can attach it to the documents in Bright like you would the seller's disclosure. You can email it directly to me or an appraiser that's coming. It provides context to the property. So um, it's just helpful with things like when I walk through and one of the first things I always ask the homeowners are, what have you done to the property? And a lot of times they'll say, oh, the windows are new, the roof's new. My immediate follow-up question is new 2025, 2024? No, about 7, 8 years ago. That's not really quite new anymore. So just having about when things were done, um, it's really, really helpful. So providing comps is obviously a contentious point sometimes with appraisers. I don't understand why, truthfully. I don't know why there are appraisers who don't want to look at the comparable sales the agent considered. I think it's a huge disservice to the public, everyone involved in the transaction. Will we use every sale that you looked at to determine your listing price? Yes and no. We'll look at them. That doesn't mean we'll include it in our direct sales comparison approach. You'll see it a lot of times as a grid on the appraisal report. But I like to get it because it just gives me a window into how you were thinking about pricing it, which also reveals experience, agent's experience. A lot of times I can tell immediately by the sales they've provided whether or not they're actually comparable or if they're kind of pie in the sky stuff, and I know I might have my work cut out for me on the appraisal. Um, and from an appraiser's side, professionally, if you give me the sales, I'm going to review them. A lot of times I'll comment on them in the report. Ideally, we're looking at the same properties and thinking they're the most similar alternatives to the subject property. When they're not, and I've been provided sales, I try to comment on why I may not have included them. So at least I'm trying to acknowledge the work you've put into this, and I just can't understand why other appraisers wouldn't want this. I think it's really helpful. So um, I think from streamlining the process, you can email them. You can just send the Bright link. That's helpful. Don't print them out and bring them to the appraiser's appointment. We don't want paper. I don't want a stack of MLS printouts that I can access myself. If you send the link, it's great. I've got the MLS numbers, I can look at them, and it just makes it much, much easier. Sharing off-market knowledge. This is something where obviously we have access to Bright as well as appraisers, so we can see all that information, but where agents kind of have the upper hand a lot of the time is you guys know what's going on a street by street level. Appraisers tend to cover large areas. I'm across 2 states, many counties. So, I don't necessarily know if one street over there's a FSBO situation that you might be aware of. And if that's relevant, that's really helpful. If I don't happen to drive by that on the way to your listing, I might not know about it. And if you do, bring it up to me. I've had appraisals in the past where agents knew about a transaction around the corner, wasn't on the MLS, highly similar to the subject property, was very informative in why they priced their property the way they did. They gave me the homeowner's contact information for that sale, so I'm able to verify, one, that it's sold because I can look up the deed, but if I can have a contact in that transaction, that's so valuable because I can call them, find out about motivations, were there credits, concessions involved. A lot of times there might not be photos available, so I can discuss the condition of the property. All those things enable me to use a sale that's helpful and in determining the value of your property. So the agents that have that information and share it, it's a really good practice to emulate. Organizing multiple offer summaries. So this was huge around 2021, 2022, but I still see it in many markets right now. It's very competitive. There's not a lot of inventory out there. When you have situations where you get multiple offers, you're already doing this anyway. as a good agent, you're organizing them into something that's digestible for your seller. So you've got, your offer, you might know the contingencies, the financing type, how much they're putting down. That stuff is so valuable for the appraiser to see as well. And I understand there may be some concern around confidentiality there. I'm happy to sign any kind of NDA to get access to that information, because what happened back in 21, 22 is a lot of times, and if you were working in the market then, you get these outrageous offers where you might list a property for 550, it might go under contract at 750, and there's nothing else in the neighborhood that's sold more than 550, and it's like, how does an appraiser support that? Even though you had an offer there, you might have had 8 other offers between 550 and 750. And if you can give that to the appraiser, that's something we can demonstrate in our report to the mortgage company. Because if I can go, hey, the seller listed at 550, they've got 8 offers. The accepted ones at 750 had a crazy escalation clause that pretty much said they were going to buy the house over everyone else. But they've got 6 other offers at 725, 2 other offers at 7. So clearly, even though we don't have other sales in the market that happened above 550, we have documented market evidence that shows this property is somewhere around 7 to 725, because that's what everyone is wanting to pay for it. And I can put that in my report, and that's so helpful to be able to demonstrate what's actually happening in the market. And I had many agents do this around 21, 22. So I highly recommend it if you're in one of those situations. Um, it's just something that can be extra supportive, and it can explain why the contract price is where it is. Responding to an appraiser's call or text, this is more uh, for verification side, so not necessarily scheduling appointments, but a lot of times appraisers have to call and verify information about a sale because, like I said, there might not be any sort of description about a sale on the MLS. There might not be any photos. It may have sold very recently and not been recorded yet. That's most of my calls are that. So I'm calling and saying, hey, did this actually sell at the price that's still noted in as in the MLS? Because sometimes the pending sale price isn't updated. A concession might not be noted, so I like to call and verify those things. Even if it's text, just respond to text. I send out a basic text all the time trying to verify some details, and it's really, really helpful when you answer. If you don't, it just puts the appraiser in a tough position for supporting appraisals. So I'll give you an example. Using a comparable sale where I can't verify anything about it, I can still use it, but I might put less weight on it, which is a shame if it's the most similar or very similar. I might disregard it because I can't verify anything about the transaction. Um, and that kind of just hurts, again, the public here and other agents. So your colleagues have sales and listings, and we all want the most accurate data to reflect what's actually happening in the market. So verification calls are they're we have to do them as appraisers under USPAP. So any help we can get on them is just so appreciated. And to agents' credit, I would say 8 times out of 10, I'm able to verify the information that I get. The best agents, the top 1, 2% are so happy to tell me about everything that happened in the transaction, and just gives so much color to it, and it makes my appraisal job much easier, and I save those agents' numbers. I tend to call them more, and those are the people I think of for referrals. So um, keep that in mind. Another one would be educating borrowers on appraisal waivers. These are, again, kind of popped up more in 21, 22, but still around and probably increasing. Um, these are situations where the borrower has a strong credit profile. They maybe are putting a huge down payment down. It might be a property where there's lots of similar comparable sales that have sold, so the lender's AVM has good data to work with. So they might be granted an appraisal waiver. And I think the number one mistake you can do as an agent is just celebrate that you saved free $500 on appraisal and move on. acknowledge it. You want to acknowledge that, yes, that's great that they got a waiver, but it's not necessarily reflective that your offer price is market value. It just means your borrower is a strong buyer with low risk to the lender. I think the best agents educate those types of borrowers. You want to give them the option. They don't have to get a private appraisal in those situations. It's just about explaining to them that, like, hey, this waiver doesn't mean our offer is the market value. It's the private appraisal can help them understand their equity position. They might be close to PMI threshold if they're considering doing a renovation soon. More about peace of mind. So if they get a waiver, it's just keep in mind you want to inform them, keep them educated. Um, Obviously, it's great to save that cost. It streamlines the transaction, it makes it quicker. But if they are, like I said, around kind of any of these thresholds with PMI or thinking about a renovation, consider a private appraisal, or not even necessarily during the transaction. It could be afterward or soon after. Um, it just helps them understand where they are, because if they, made a really strong all cash offer above asking, they're going to get cleared potentially with a waiver, but they need to know where they stand still. Probably the most common thing that realtors do with me is hiring me to help them price kind of unique properties, or if there's just not a lot of comparable sales around, which is most of our area right now. I think, winging it or just going with your gut on pricing and seeing is not always the best option in those situations. So, in my experience, even the most seasoned expert realtors will call and hire an appraiser and have them come out and give them a range of value or a point of value to start at, have a foundation to go from, have a plan. When you hire me, and ideally I hope other appraisers do this as well, I'm not just saying property's worth X. I'm saying, hey, here's like the most supportable range I think we're at. I would probably start here from a psychological point with respect to buyer preferences. If you don't have offers in this many days, here's how much you probably want to come down based on other sales, based on typical reduction in prices that I'm seeing. If you're getting offers above this price point, awesome. But here's kind of where we might want to be concerned about an appraisal issue on the buyer side, and they might want to bring some extra, just make sure your buyer's strong and has some cash to bring to the table. Informing clients about the ROV, the reconsideration of value option. So this is when the appraised value might be below the contract price. Make your borrowers aware that this is an option from the start. It doesn't mean if the appraised value is below the contract price, definitely do a reconsideration of value. It's just another tool that they have to empower your client and make sure they feel confident going through the process. So I think the best practice with the ROVs are, again, kind of self-promoting here, but if you hire me or another appraiser to look through the appraisal you're challenging, that's probably your best bet at having success in appealing it, because I've seen agents or homeowners just kind of slap together the 3 highest sales they could find to support what they think is the right price, and a lot of times that's going to get you nowhere, especially if they're not similar. The best things you can do are find inconsistencies in the appraisal report, and if you're not versed in finding those sort of things, hire someone who is and can find them pretty quickly, because appraisals look very similar for the most part, so it's easy to find inconsistencies. It's also the other best option is finding comparable sales that an appraiser might have overlooked. That's usually a strong argument for getting them to adjust their appraised value. That's another thing an appraiser is really good at finding and helping out with. All of that to say, and what you want to make your borrowers aware of, is that just because you have a strong argument, and it doesn't mean the appraiser will change the appraised value. Appraisers can be stubborn. It's just about increasing your odds of success on one of these ROVs. And if you bring in an appraiser like me, I can help articulate in a way that the other appraiser is going to understand, feel pressured to possibly change if it's warranted. Um, but at the end of the day, it is up to that appraiser's discretion. I've had to go both ways. I've had what I felt like was very little evidence to kind of support any kind of change, but the client wanted to move forward anyway. The appraiser ended up changing it. I've had situations where I felt like there was overwhelming evidence and almost negligence in an appraisal report. We provided it, the appraiser changed nothing. So it is kind of hit or miss, but that's just about educating your client about their options again. And then last one is collaboration. I think the best agents out there are finding as many ways as they can to collaborate and probably don't think about appraisers often in that way. Uh, I would like to change that. If you have an interesting house that you're represent or selling, an interesting transaction that you've dealt with, call me. I want to learn about it first of all, but then I also want to put together some content around that, and I'm happy to highlight you in it, how you solve the problem. It's your success story. I just kind of want to share that with the audience, learn selfishly myself. And I think the more appraisers and agents do that, we're on the same team more than uh, I think we realize or give ourselves the opportunity to be. So again, if and I don't really see agents doing this a lot too. I think, they might just post a picture on Instagram that says sold, on to the next one. But the ones who tell the stories of what happened, that's a best practice. And I do this already anyway. So if you want me to do the heavy lifting for you, call me. We'll put together a story. I'll tag you in it. I'll, link all your websites wherever you want to be. And I just think it's another way to get your name and your brand out there. So that's pretty much everything. That went about twice as long as I thought it might go. I tried to keep it as short as possible, but hopefully you found some value there. And if I can help you out with any of this, or another, if this gives you a new perspective on, your relationship with appraisers, which I hope it did. So if not me, reach out to an appraiser. We have a lot of ways we can help that might not be obvious on the surface. And yeah, hope to hear from someone soon about ways to work together. And I'm always available just to, like I said, if you've done something interesting in the market, I always like hearing about that, even if it leads to, even if you're in another market I don't even work in. It's just that stuff is so interesting to me. So um, thanks for taking the time to watch if you made it this far, and have a good one.